This video is different from all the others that we've been working on. While the others were mostly talking about the impact of coronavirus on real estate, this video has really nothing to do with real estate, but it talks about my belief that within the next 3 to 4 weeks in the United States, we are going to be in a full-scale, full-blown quarantine. This video is about math, and it's about exponential curves. Exponential curves are something that people don't understand. Many people call them hockey sticks. So if you look at our on the left here, these are the total number of cases in the US, and you can see that we're going into this hockey stick mode where the virus is accelerating and the cases are accelerating. So what I'm doing is trying to show you what the future looks like 20 days and 45 days from now if this virus stays on its exponential rate curve. This is very hard to understand, which is why I'm providing you with a simple Excel spreadsheet. So here, I've put in the total number of new cases in the US for the last 9 days, right? Today, it's about 1,000. And then what I've done is I've mapped the daily growth rate, right? So I'm just doing some basic math here to give you a daily growth rate. The average daily growth rate is about 32%. Now, usually what we've seen is once you get to about 1,000 cases, there's a lot of hue and cry in other countries. So other countries like South Korea and Iran and to some extent Italy have managed to slow it down so that beyond the first initial growth curve, it does slow down a little bit. The daily average growth in South Korea tends to be between 10 and 15% a day because they're taking much more aggressive measures than we are. So I'm going to give you my best case scenario that tomorrow morning we start taking all of those measures and they are so aggressive that we go from 32% daily growth to 15% daily growth. I don't want to be accused of somebody that is being exaggerating. So I'm going to assume that our daily growth rate magically tomorrow is going to be half of what it is today. And then I'm going to extrapolate that growth rate as we go into the future. If we stay at that 15% rate, remember we're at double the rate right now, we will, by the end of March, already be at 15,000 cases in the US. And if we extrapolate that into April, then on the 30th of April, we will have 1 million people with coronavirus in the United States. If we stay at the 1.3 rate, though, every single person in the United States will be infected by this date. As I said, it's unlikely that it'll stay at that rate because we'll get much more aggressive with our containment and also with testing. So I'm using a much, much, much lower rate, which brings me to 1 million people, not the whole population of the US. The problem is 1 million people is also not sustainable because we only have 75,000 ventilators in US hospitals. 20% of these people will be sick enough so that they need to be in the ICU. We don't have enough ICU rooms. We don't have enough ventilators. So I don't see us getting anywhere close to these numbers. The math that I'm doing is extraordinarily simple. Anyone can do it. You know, it's just basic Excel. And right now, I believe that there are mathematicians all across the US doing it. The only method that we know of to stop this and get it down to a more reasonable level, let's say a 5% growth, 105, and boom, there we go, 105. At 105, we only have 2,000 cases at the end of March. Very unlikely. That's very bullish. And then we have about 8,000 or 9,000 cases at the end of April. And keep in mind that by slowing it down to this level, many people will be recovering. So actually, this infection rate may even be lower than possible. But the only way to achieve this rate that we have seen so far is quarantine. The Italians went into a partial quarantine, noticed that their rate was still much higher than 1.05, and then within 2 or 3 days, put the whole country in quarantine. My belief is that there's nothing special about the US in the sense that we don't have any measures that are different. The virus has its own exponential growth rate. It has its own infection rate. If it applied to Iran, South Korea, and Italy, it's going to apply to us. So unless we go into heavy quarantine within the next 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to blow up. Take a look at what happens if it stays at a 32% rate going forward. If you don't quarantine in any way at all, then by the end of this month, we are 300,000 people sick. And by the 25th of April, every single person in the United States is infected. So there's really not much of a choice. At this point, I believe that we're going to have to enforce some kind of quarantine. You're going to start hearing about it within the next week, and it's possible that the quarantine lasts multiple weeks. Now, it's possible that this math is completely off. It's completely wrong, and I would be so, so happy if that's the case, obviously. But let me know. Let me know if my math is incorrect. Let me know if I'm doing something wrong. Please give me feedback on this. Thanks so much.